Good morning, guys. Welcome. This is Glasgow Rangers Nation. I'm Owen James, and this is all your latest Rangers news, guys. It is the 18th of August. We are fast approaching the end of the transfer window, and ahead of a massive week for the club, isn't it? Huge week. Obviously, with the Champions League qualifier coming up against Club Brugge, and I've got to say, after coming out of that game over the weekend, where we struggled to a 4-2 victory over the mighty Division 1 side Alloa Athletic at Ibrox, I'd imagine over in Bruges, in Belgium, or Brugge, whatever, however they want to say it, they are absolutely shitting themselves, aren't they? I'm sure they are. Let's face it, anyone who puts away Alloa in the style that we did, I mean, let's face it, Bruges must be absolutely crapping themselves. I'm sure they had a good laugh, a good giggle when they saw that game. Look, we'll start with just a little take on that game. I don't want to spend too long on it. It was depressing enough. It was just a continuation, wasn't it, realistically, of what we've seen so far this season of slow, disjointed football that genuinely isn't to the standard that Russell Martin's talked about so far. The movement from back to front was way too slow. The transitions were way too slow. The use of the ball was way too slow. Again, we saw examples of once the ball got into dangerous areas, the players effectively playing the horseshoe and turning backwards again. It just, again, was not clever, and the defence, again, was pretty shocking. To concede 2 goals at home against a team like Alloa is, well, just let's face it, unacceptable for a team like Rangers. This is, we talk about the gap in the SPL between ourselves and the likes of Livingston and Dundee United, etc., etc. But the gap between a club like Rangers and a club like Alloa is just absolutely ginormous. And look, yes, we're progressed, and that's a positive. We're through to the next round where we'll play Livy or Hibs. I think that game did take place today. But look, at the end of the day, that's got to be a positive. We are through, but the result was fine, but the performance just was not acceptable yet again. And it's another example of Russell Martin's football really failing to catch on. You've really genuinely got to worry about the direction we're heading. And obviously, it's going to be Hibernian in the next round of the Cup, which will be a very testing tie. They won that game 2-0 away at Livy today. No surprise then. Hibs have certainly started the season off very fine form again. Obviously, they've even progressed in Europe this week, so fair play to them. But look, I'm not massively optimistic going into Tuesday's game, not after that performance in the Cup yesterday. Again, like I said, just not up to it. It is too slow. It is too turgid. It is too boring. The shape is not there. The formation looks poor. Now, we know that one of the issues is around the defence, and we looked at, obviously, the situation with Nobel Mendy. Apparently, there are complications around the deal to sign Nobel Mendy, all around the medical issue. So that deal, is very much touch and go as to whether it will proceed. Now, I'm guessing that if the Nobel Mendy deal doesn't proceed at this point, that some alternative will be found in that centre-back position. It really does need to be found in that centre-back position. Now, we know that the left-back position has suddenly become an issue too. Obviously, Robbie Fraser departed the club to Dunfermline. We've now obviously pretty much confirmed, Russell Martin confirming that the Brazilian left-back Jefte will depart the club very, very soon to return to his native Brazil to join Palmeiras. Now, look, the deal that Rangers negotiated, and you've got to look for all the criticism that he's got so far, Kevin Thelwell, and I'm sure Dan Purdy's had a hand in it. The criticism they've had has been fair. I think the signings we've made this summer have been, well, the jury's out. Let's just say that. The jury's out on the signings we've made this summer. Some have made inauspicious starts to their time at the club, and that's concerning. But, in terms, obviously, of the Jefte deal, you've got to give them credit for that one. Now, Jefte was acquired for around £800,000 from Limassol. From Apollon out in Cyprus last summer. We are now selling him for a fee that could rise as high as 6 million. Now, it was reported by unreliable sources the other day that it was 6 million. It's not 6 million. It can rise to 6 million, providing certain performance criteria are met. And certain performance levels are reached by Jefte, and Palmeiras succeed in certain areas. So that 6 million is very much performance dependent. It's felt that the basic transfer fee is around 4.75 million, which does represent an outstanding profit for the club of nearly £4 million on a player we bought just over 12 months ago. So that's fair play. I mean, look, we've criticised Thelwell, rightly so, but look, that is a good deal. Getting a £4 million profit on a young lad like that who, let's face it, has not massively impressed since he's come to the club and replaced Borna Barisic as our left back. Made 52 appearances for the club. going forward, as I said on the video the other day, he's decent going forward. Just defensively, he's a bomb scare at times, absolute bomb scare at times. And we wish him all the best. Wish Jefte all the best as he moves on. So that obviously has left us in a situation where the only recognised left back at the club is currently Ridvan. Again, another player whose situation is very much in flux. We don't know what's happening with him. We've heard rumours that he's returning to his native Turkey to go to Besiktas. We've heard that that he's unhappy at the club, that he's not part of Russell Martin's plans. He certainly hasn't been included in the Euro squad again. Look, we're going to face that Euro tie on Tuesday without a recognised left back in the squad now, because obviously the signing of Jayden Meghoma has come way too late for him to be added into the European squad at this point. So that is obviously the club planning to some degree to replace that. So I think it was kind of obvious that once we let Fraser leave and we let Jefte leave, that there had to be a plan, a long-term plan, or some sort of plan. You'd hope, unless the person running the club is genuinely, I don't know, Mr. Tumble's special, relative or something like that. Jayden Meghoma is the guy who has come in to replace Jefte and obviously Robbie Fraser to some degree as well. Now, Jayden Meghoma is a player who is known very well to Russell Martin because he worked with Russell Martin at Southampton. That's a fact. Again, it's another player that Russell Martin has had experience of working with, yet another player. The same way, obviously, that Rothwell is a player that has worked with Russell Martin previously. Meghoma is another player who has worked with him previously. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your take on the situation, this is another loan deal. Which, look, I get that we need to bring in some loans. I understand that is something we do need to do. That's a fact. But how does this aid long-term team building? How does this support that long-term team build? Guys, I'm going to bring his stats up on the screen for you now. How does that sort us out, for building a team that's going to be here for, beyond 12 months? This is, again, another loan deal where there is no option to buy. There is no obligation to buy within the deal because he's just signed a long-term contract with Brentford. Brentford want to see him, progress into their first team long-term, but they want to send him out on loan so he can be developed, so that he can gain some experience. And, there's that slight concern, again, that we are developing other people's players and not getting any benefit from it. This guy will return after 12 months back to his own club, and we don't get anything back for that. We've paid a loan fee for him. We're paying out a proportion of his salary. Yes, we are getting some benefit in the fact that we are getting a high quality young English talent into the squad. But by that same token, this is not a guy who's going to be here past this season. Now, as you can see from his stats, he started off with Spurs under 18s. He then spent some time with Southampton, played for the under 18s and the under 21s. Played 4 times for Southampton whilst Russell Martin was manager. He had 14 games for Preston during a loan spell with 1 assist. He's made 4 appearances for Brentford's first team in his time there, where he currently is, and that's where he is coming from for us. That's where he's signing from, as a Rangers player. And look, I'm pleased that he's coming. We do need a left back. This is a very good option. This is a good left back, a good left back. So, look, it's a double-edged sword. It's a good signing in that it's a good young player who will come in, will be able to hit the ground running, be able to play from game one, that will be able to hopefully adapt to Scottish football, and will be hopefully able to show the talent that he quite clearly has. The downside, and you've got to look, and people can say, oh, you've been negative again. No, I'm just pointing out the obvious, that there is a downside to all these loan players, as we've seen with Václav Černý, as we've seen with Abdallah Sima, for example, as well, where you get a player and you don't get a long-term benefit. And, what I really want to see from our club is our club building a team that is here for not just one season or for 6 months or 8 months. He's here for a period of time to build on and develop and to push on. We're being told that this is a project. This is a, this is a rebuild. This is going to take longer than one window. It's going to take 2 windows. This is going to take several windows. This is going to take time for us to get it right. Well, if you're constantly bringing in loan players who are then disappearing after 12 months, how is that helping long-term team building and fluidity and, a gelling of a team. If in 12 months' time you've got players who are just going to walk out the door, like Giga, like Meghoma now, who will be gone in 12 months, how is that building for the future? It does slightly concern me. Now, I do understand that we do need some loan players. Look, that's just how we are because of the financial situation, although the owners tell us we don't need to sell and there is money there to sign players. So it's a bit of a strange one, really. In terms of Meghoma, on signing for Rangers, he said, "I'm very excited to be here. It's a fantastic club and I know a lot about the rich history of Rangers. When the deal was presented to me, I thought straight away that would be a fantastic opportunity for myself and my family. The main thing for me is getting results. Rangers is a big club and I am ready. I am hungry and excited to get going." So it's it's interesting and it's good that he's obviously positive about coming north of the border. He's positive about playing for the club. He's positive about moving forward with the club. And that the moment the project was kind of floated to him, he wanted to come. That's positive. That's good. On signing Jayden Meghoma, Russell Martin said, "I'm really pleased to welcome Jayden to Rangers. I've worked with him before and I know exactly what he brings. He's a young player with a big potential, real athleticism and great attitude." Again, all things we need in this team, especially at fullback. He's hungry to learn and improve, and I'm confident he'll thrive in this environment. We're excited to help him take the next step in his career here at Ibrox. Now, it's felt that Rangers were the right club for Meghoma because Brentford saw it as a good opportunity to play in front of big crowds, to play at a pressured environment, as he will in the Premier League, and also to get European experience, something Brentford obviously are hoping to get through qualifying from the Premier League to play in the Europa League or at least the Conference League next season. Sporting Director Kevin Thelwell added, "We're delighted to bring Jayden to Rangers for the season. At a young age, he has already shown maturity and technical quality, and I'm looking forward to seeing him thrive in this squad. Having worked with Russell before, there's already a strong foundation in place, and we're confident in the right environment for Jayden to grow and make an impact." So again, it is very much about Russell Martin bringing in players that he knows, players that he can be successful with. And I think that's, something the club are aiming to do. Look, don't get me wrong. It's a good signing. It is a good signing. Like I said, the downside is that longevity side of it. This is a huge week for the club. Massive week for the club. It genuinely is. It's kind of a make or break week, isn't it? For us as a club. We need to be successful. We've got that first playoff leg. It's at home against Club Brugge. Club Brugge will be an exceptionally tough out. They are a very, very good side, as we saw in that pre-season friendly at Ibrox. When they came, they outplayed us for 45 minutes. They made a load of changes, took off their first string. We brought on a lot of our first string, and we got back into the game, and we got the 2-2. So, for me, this is going to be an exceptionally hard game. Club Brugge did fantastically well to qualify to get for this Champions League next round. They beat RB Salzburg 3-2. They won yesterday in the Belgian Pro League 1-0 away at Zulte Waregem. I suppose the one kind of encouraging thing going into this tie against Brugge is they have lost a lot of players this summer. There's a lot of players that have gone out this summer. From the club, and they have lost talent, which is positive that some of those quality players have gone, but they've still got a very, very strong side. If you look at the side that beat Salzburg in that playoff, Mignolet in goal, back four of Says, Spears, Mekele, Meyer, midfield three of Reis, Onyeke and Van Aken, front three of Forbes, Vermont and Solis. So they're an experienced team. They're a good side. They will be an exceptionally tough out, and Rangers will need to be at their very European best. We'll have to pull out one of those European performances to get a lead to take to Brugge. We're going to have to take a lead there. If we don't go there 2-0 up, 3-0 up, it's game over. It really genuinely is. And I'm not massively confident going into Tuesday night's game. I think if we play as we did on Saturday against Alloa, and I know the team will massively change from the Alloa game, but even as we play, if you go back to the game during the week, or you go back to the last league game, you go back to that game against Plitzen. If we play like that against Club Brugge, they will absolutely hand our asses to us, properly hand our asses to us. And Russell Martin is in a position where he is a little bit hamstrung as well with who he can pick. So look, it's a difficult one. It's going to be huge. It's going to be massive. I'm going to tell you now, I'm not massively confident. Head is telling me one thing, heart is telling me another. Heart is telling me that we'll have a Rangers night, it'll be an Ibrox night, it'll be a European night, we'll come away with a 2-0 win. My head is telling me that they'll come and they'll probably beat us on the night. You know, that's just the way it looks for me. And I worry. I genuinely do for Tuesday night, going into that Brugge game. This team's got major improvements to make, huge improvements to make, and it's got to do it very, very quickly. And I'm sick to death of hearing the bullshit of, oh, it's going to take time. It's time. Mate, seriously, look at what Derek McInnes is doing at Hearts. Look at what Jimmy Thielen did last season. You know, it's absolute bollocks to talk about needing time to gel a team, to get a team ready. At the end of the day, if you've got a good coach and if you've got a decent head coach, you know, yes, I know Hearts went out of the League Cup yesterday on penalties, but in terms of their league form, they've won their first 2 games. You know, you've look at the work that he's done there. They had some pretty good pre-season results as well. They beat Sunderland, who actually won their first Premier League game yesterday, 3-0 against West Ham. They beat them 3-0. You know, like I said, and Jimmy Thielen last season, they hit the ground running. And I think a lot of managers can do that. If they're good coaches, they can organise a team to play from day one. Russell Martin hasn't done that. That's just the way things are. Guys, I'd love to know your thoughts. Drop me a comment, please. Thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation, guys. As always, on the way out, please drop me a comment. And remember, if you've enjoyed it, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And we'll catch you on the next one.